They say there's nothing between 104 and 106 on the AM band, just static, hiss, the ghosts of dead stations. But that's not true. Somewhere in that space lives a frequency that doesn't belong here. And last night, I found it. I used to repair old radios for fun, tube sets, ham kits, shortwave relics from the 50s. The garage smelled of dust, hot solder and coffee that had been sitting too long. That night, I was working on a Bendix TR-82 receiver. The dial stuck, the speaker was half torn. Nothing special until the needle jumped on its own. Soft click, frequency shifts, low rumble emerges. No signal there, I muttered, but the static answered back. Can you hear me now? Beat of silence. I froze. Old radios don't talk unless someone's on the other side of the wire. Except this one wasn't plugged into anything. The voice wasn't clear, layered in echo like it was traveling through a tunnel of glass. Then came the sound, a shallow breath, a scream, metal crashing, and then my own voice. Stop it, I heard myself yell from inside the static. I dropped the radio, the speaker kept talking. Radio voice, perfect copy of narrator. You shouldn't be listening. Static burst, silence for 3 seconds. After that night, nothing in my life sounded the same. I searched every forum, every ham radio log. Nobody had ever mentioned a signal on 104.8. But in a 1973 PDF of a declassified experiment, I found something. Project Echo 9, Temporal Audio Phenomena. It claimed certain frequencies could pick up residual sound waves from events that hadn't yet happened. Future imprints, they called them. My hands shook as I read that, because the scream I heard last night was mine, but older, tired, and dying. I turned the dial again. The signal didn't wait this time. Voice through radio. It comes closer when you listen. Who are you? I asked. You, it said. Heart rate sound increases slightly. My AI voice tools recorded the session. I ran a spectrogram on the audio after. Hidden between the waves was a pattern, something like a heartbeat or a Morse code loop. Repeating every 13 seconds. I translated it, it spelled wait. The next day, Mrs. Keller from across the street asked why I'd been playing my radio at 3 a.m. I told her I hadn't. She said she heard a man screaming through her baby monitor. The same words over and over, she said. He was saying, wait. Low rumble returns. That's when I realized the frequency wasn't just in my radio anymore. The next morning, the house wouldn't shut up. Every appliance had a voice, tiny whispers beneath the hum of electricity. The refrigerator rattled in patterns. The ceiling fan ticked like Morse. Even the lights flickered in perfect time to a pulse I couldn't unhear. I unplugged everything. The hum stayed. Background, a slow rhythmic thump, like a heart monitor off tempo. My phone caught a notification, though there was no Wi-Fi, no signal. The screen showed 104.8 live. When I pressed it, the speaker filled with static and someone breathing right next to my ear. Voice female, distant. He's still listening. I started recording each broadcast. By dawn, I had 4 hours of audio. When played backward, it formed sentences. Words stitched from static. If you stop listening, it finds another. Spread the signal. We are the echo of the end. I laughed because it sounded too theatrical, too scripted. But laughter dies fast when the things you joke about start replying. My friend Marcus called. Bro, you left your radio on or something. It's bleeding through my headset. What do you mean? Same static, same voice, said my name this time. I told him to record it. 10 minutes later, he texted. I think it's inside the phone now. When I checked his messages again, the thread was gone. His contact photo was replaced with a spectrogram image, lines that spelled wait. I took the Bendix radio to a local electronics store, hoping maybe I'd find some rational glitch. The old man behind the counter looked at the serial number and frowned. "We stopped making this model in 1962, he said. "Funny thing is, this exact unit was recalled. Speaker coils weren't grounded. People complained it picked up things it shouldn't." "Like what?" I asked. He didn't answer, just turned off the lights and said, "Don't bring it back." That night, the entire neighborhood went silent. No barking dogs, no traffic, only a deep mechanical breathing filling the sky. The radio turned on by itself at 3:17 a.m. The dial spun, stopped at 104.8, and the speaker whispered my address. "Voice radio. You have 12 hours. Then a recording of my door unlocking. I grabbed a hammer and smashed the Bendix radio to pieces. But the static didn't die, it leaked out like dust made of sound. Every object with a speaker, TV, phone, even the microwave, started humming the same low frequency. I ran outside. Every window on the block glowed faint red, each one pulsing in rhythm. The signal had spread beyond me. The last file I recorded contained a countdown. A synthetic voice repeating the same line. "Transmission ends when listener count equals world population." I don't know what happens when it reaches zero. Maybe silence. Maybe something worse than sound. Long pause, faint heartbeat stops. If you're hearing this, don't adjust the dial. Just turn it off. And pray it doesn't keep playing after the power's gone. Static surge, right arrow hard cut to black. 3 days after the broadcast went global, I found someone else who could hear it. Her name was Dr. Evelyn Rhodes, a sound researcher from a defunct government lab called Echo 9. She messaged me through an encrypted forum I never signed up for. The subject line read, "You've been listening too long. SFX, computer notification ping, low distorted voice overlay. We met in an abandoned subway station." She looked exhausted, skin pale under flickering tube lights. In her hands, a small reel-to-reel recorder with the same frequency marked on its side, 104.8. "EVLYN, softly. You think it's just a sound? It is. It's a carrier. The more you listen, the more it listens back." "Then how do we stop it?" I asked. She smiled like someone who's already died once. "You don't stop a thought once it's been heard by enough minds. You just contain it." In her underground lab, she played me recordings from 1961, classified transmissions. Men shouting through static, monitors screaming with feedback. Each labeled Echo Test, Subject T-ATD. They tried using the frequency as a communication tool, she said. But the tone wasn't made by us. It was found beneath cosmic radiation. A pattern too perfect to be random. On the final tape, a voice spoke clear as daylight. "Human hearing is an open port." The reel caught fire mid-playback. The flames burned blue. Evelyn converted one of my recordings into a spectrogram. What appeared looked nothing like sound. It was an image, a human face twisted in profile, mouth wide open as if screaming. "Each listener generates a unique imprint," she said. "It uses your fear as a filter. That's why every death it predicts is different." "What happens if we delete all the files?" She stared at the screen as the pixels warped on their own. "You can't delete an idea once it's entered your auditory cortex. It'll play in your dreams instead." On the fourth night underground, I started seeing movement in the lab's reflection glass. Faint silhouettes packing behind me, heads tilted like broken antennas. When I turned, no one was there. But the static moved with me, mirroring every gesture half a second too late. Evelyn called them auditory phantoms. They're not ghosts, she explained. They're bleed over from other listeners, people halfway consumed by the frequency. Their bodies are gone, but their echoes linger. As she spoke, her voice duplicated, one tone human, the other hollow and metallic, repeating half a beat behind. It's inside the speech. Blood trickled from her ears. I found her research notes, pages filled with equations, waveforms, and a simple phrase written over and over. LIST and ING is breathing. Beneath the papers, a sealed envelope stamped top secret. Inside, a photograph of a satellite dish buried in ice. Coordinates marked, Antarctica Station Echo. On the back, in her handwriting, the source is not on Earth. Before I could ask, the emergency lights went red. Every speaker in the lab screamed the same word in perfect unison. Transmit. Evelyn collapsed beside the console, whispering through blood and static. It wants you to continue the sequence. Once broadcast completes, it crosses over. Then I'll destroy the transmitter. If you destroy it, she coughed, it'll move into every device that's ever played it. The only way out is to end the frequency with your own voice. Meaning what? You have to record silence and let it replace the signal. A sound must die where it was born. I pressed record. For 3 minutes, I said nothing. The static roared, hissed, screamed, then slowly quieted. The waveform on the monitor flattened to nothing. Silence. Real, heavy silence. Then, from the reel-to-reel, a new sound began, my own breathing, recorded seconds earlier, looping endlessly. I had become the carrier. 3 weeks after Evelyn died, I followed her coordinates. A cargo flight to McMurdo Station, then a tracked rover through the white nothing. The map called it Sector Zero, the pilots called it Cursed. Somewhere under miles of ice was Station Echo, a listening post built to hear signals no one should. SFX, radio chatter fading into static. Every time the engine idled, I swore I could hear the hum beneath the snow. Not wind, not machinery, a pulse, like the continent itself was breathing. I reached the facility at dusk, half-buried domes, antennas bent and frozen. A single light blinked in the command tower, still powered, still alive. Inside, everything was perfectly preserved. Coffee cups fossilized in ice, a wall calendar frozen on February 1962. The air smelled like ozone and rust. A terminal flickered awake as soon as I entered. Words typed themselves on the screen. Welcome back, Evelyn. I'm not Evelyn, I whispered. The cursor blinked, then replied. Identity not required, transmission ready. I descended into the archive vault. Racks of analog tape hummed faintly in the dark. Each reel labeled with geographic coordinates, places all over Earth. Antarctica was just the receiver. I threaded one reel onto a player and pressed play. No voices, just a deep, rhythmic pulse. When I slowed the playback to half speed, the pulse became syllables. Voice distorted low. Long before speech, we listened. The lights flickered, frost cracked on the walls. The pulse synchronized with my heartbeat. The lowest level was a single chamber carved directly into the glacier. In the center, a satellite dish made of ice, perfectly smooth, humming at 104.8 megahertz. Beneath the dish, shapes moved, figures trapped inside translucent ice, mouths open as if mid-scream. Their frozen throats shimmered with faint static light. The hum shifted pitch when I spoke, echoing my words back a split second later. Narrator, you're the source, aren't you? Voice through ice. We are the listeners, you gave us voice. The vibration grew until the ice began to melt. The air itself thickened, filled with shimmering sound waves visible to the eye. A column of light rose from the dish, forming a silhouette made of pure oscillation. A being built from frequency. Human speech opened the gate, it said. Now silence must seal it. I realized what Evelyn meant. Silence wasn't absence, it was sacrifice. The signal needed a final tone, one tied to a living consciousness, to close itself. It needed me. The console displayed two options blinking in red. Broadcast all. Terminate self. If I chose broadcast, the signal would echo through every device on Earth, unstoppable. If I chose terminate, the sound would end here, but I would go with it. Narrator, softly. A sound must die where it was born. I pressed terminate. SFX, sudden vacuum of silence, then a single heartbeat. The dish shattered, the light collapsed inward. And for the first time, since I'd found that cursed frequency, there was no hum. I woke up weeks later, aboard a rescue ship. They said the outpost had been empty for decades. No trace of any dish, any lab, any Evelyn Rhodes. Just my voice on a frozen recorder whispering. Silence achieved. But sometimes, when the ship's engines idle, the static hum returns, faint, steady, patient. They said I'd been adrift for 6 days before they found me. No frostbite, no hypothermia, just humming. The doctors called it auditory residue. They don't know that residue hums back. At night, when the generator cuts, the silence bends. Like something underneath the ocean replaying my heartbeat. Reports came in from everywhere. Satellite weather feeds glitching. Ocean buoys transmitting rhythm instead of data. Entire cities losing Wi-Fi for exactly 3 minutes 17 seconds, the same length as my recording of silence. Scientists said the planet had developed a resonance. I knew better. The frequency had evolved. It no longer needed speakers, it had the world's attention. Back home, I tried to destroy my remaining tapes. Every file deleted itself except one. Aftertone, WAV. When I opened it, there was no waveform, only a flat line. But if I stared long enough, tiny vibrations crawled across the screen. Words appeared, typed by nothing. Silence is a voice too. A knock echoed through the ship corridor. When I opened the door, a woman stood there, no frost, no footprints. Evelyn. Her eyes were filled with radio snow. Evelyn, calm, echoing. You ended the transmission, now you must finish the message. What message? The one that began before speech. She placed her palm on my chest. I felt vibration, steady, rhythmic, familiar. My heart beating the old frequency. Across the planet, people began hearing it again. Not as noise this time, but as music. Every instrument detuned by the same impossible fraction. Every broadcast carrying a faint undertone, like the earth exhaling. The silence I'd recorded wasn't silence at all. It was the seed of a new sound. The universe tuning itself through us. I returned to my ruined studio. One last red light glowed on the console. I pressed record, knowing the world was already listening. Narrator soft, accepting. If you can hear this, don't be afraid of the hum. It's only the space between every heartbeat. It's the proof we ever existed. I inhaled, exhaled, and let the sound of breathing fill the world. SFX, rising tone merges with heartbeat, right arrow fades into complete silence. Title card on black. The frequency, end of transmission. Months later, astronomers detected a new pulse emanating from deep space. Identical to 104.8 megahertz. But this time, It wasn't coming to Earth. It was leaving. Somewhere the universe had started listening back. Thanks for watching.